Hey, this is Luke with the Android Guys podcast. I'm here with Scott. How you doing?
Hi, Luke. How are you today?
I am good. You have a review for us today.
I do. I've got a game that I've been reviewing or playing.
Well, let's get into it. What are you playing?
I am playing a game called G30, a memory maze.
Okay.
I'm not quite sure where G30 comes from.
Okay.
It's not something that you see in the game, at least as far as I've gotten.
Mm-hmm.
This is an interesting kind of game that is free with your Play Pass subscription.
Okay.
So if you're paying for that, normally this one's going to run about $4.
Okay.
So if you're paying for it, it's included in that. And I would just to kind of spoiler alert, jump out there. This is a really cool game.
Nice.
This is one that I think is definitely worth checking out. So I'm a sucker for casual games.
Yeah.
And I like games that I can play for a couple of minutes while, maybe it's a commercial during a football game.
Sure.
Or coming home from work and just kind of decompressing for a little bit.
Right.
Or laying in bed listening to a podcast or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I like games that don't require a lot of thought.
Yeah.
Don't require long-term commitments, and games that I can kind of walk away from for days or weeks at a time.
Sure.
This is all of those things.
Okay.
This is a kind of game for me to describe is gonna, maybe I'm not sure how it's gonna translate on spoken word
Okay.
for audio.
Okay.
So you've got the benefit of looking at some screenshots here.
Yeah.
This is a game where you have different levels that you will go through, and you will try to put together shapes.
Okay.
You're going to have these round, like basically dials.
Mm-hmm.
You'll have it for each color. There might be a yellow and a green and a red. Early on, you might have 3, and then as you get further into the game, you might have 5 different colors.
Okay.
But you're tasked with basically spinning these dials, and some of them spin 90 degrees at a time. They can go either direction. Some of them spin like a half circle.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them do like a full circle. But as you do that, you have these shapes that kind of will rotate in the center of the screen. That will kind of, man, this is terrible. I feel sorry, guys, if you're listening.
So I'm looking at it looks like a clock. It looks, the picture I'm looking at looks like a clock, and the different rings are associated with the different colors, it looks like.
Yes.
So, if you turn the blue dial, the blue shapes will move. Yeah.
So the shapes themselves anything that's blue will change its shape.
Okay.
Sometimes it might change to a completely different shape because you're trying to put together, for instance, a bridge.
Okay.
And it's 4 different colors, and you'll rotate the dials until you have this picture of a bridge that goes across.
Gotcha. So does it give you starting out the level, does it give you like a keyword or a picture or something that you're trying to get to? So
you have a keyword, and then as you do that, at the top of the puzzle is almost like a written kind of clue. There's like a story that's being told.
Okay.
And as you turn the dials and things get into the right spot, more of the story will unfold, and you'll see these colors kind of pop up. So you're like, oh, this is in the right area. So I know that ultimately this is where the blue is going to be.
Okay.
But then sometimes if you turn the red, it turns the blue with it. So then you might need to turn the blue 2 times. So that when you turn the red,
interesting. Okay.
So it gets increasingly harder.
Sure.
The level once you complete the shape or whatever, you move on to the next one. And I guess you would call them like worlds. Like you think of like Mario, there's world 1.
Yeah.
And then there are so many levels.
Okay.
So I'm into the 5th one right now. As I got into like the 2nd one, I realized that, as you do these puzzles and you unlock or you start to see these colors and the words, the clues, you can tap on them and it kind of collects that word. And then you can go back between levels and kind of like put those words down, and you can see like, I've got all of the 19 words that were on this entire level.
Okay.
So as you go, you want to kind of like tap these things and collect them. You don't have to, but
just extra points or something like that.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
So far I've been able to get all of them, except for in the first like I guess you would call it world, I'm missing one somewhere. And I can't tell where it is. I've tried it over and over. But levels 2, 3, 4, and 5, I've collected all of them.
Nice.
You can see how many you've got left. And as you, like some of the puzzles, it might be a gate. And then at the same time, as you're unfolding it, you realize, oh, it also makes a hand. And you can actually do 2 different puzzles out of this one.
Interesting.
And then you kind of unlock extra. So it's a really cool game in that it barely tells you what you want to do or need to do. And you kind of figure it out as you go.
Sure.
And then you realize, oh, I can go back and redo some of these levels and kind of complete things. It's really interesting. The colors, there's not a lot to them. They're your basic colors. The pictures and the patterns and the things that you're making are actually pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Sometimes, like I said, the shape, it may change. Sometimes it may like open up. So if you have like, red might have like 3 circles.
Yeah.
And then when you spin the red one, the circles might rotate and kind of like open up like a bloom.
Oh, wow.
And you realize, oh, this is actually how the red should be. So if you're listening and this doesn't make a lot of sense, I do apologize, but I do recommend you check it out.
Well, it seems like from the screens, it's at least for the basic like movements of what you're supposed to do, it seems pretty intuitive.
Yeah, you're turning dials, basically.
Yeah, was it hard to jump into the game?
Not at all.
Okay.
The first couple of levels, the actual very first one, you only have one color you can turn at a time.
Yeah.
And it shows you like, oh, it's a bird. So this color rotates through like 3 heads, and then then it unlocks the green. Then you rotate that, and you're like, oh, here's like 2 or 3 different bodies, and then here's the wing, and then you realize, oh, that's the whole bird. And then you know that you've completed it. And the next one might be like, it looks like there could be a lion or a dog or a mermaid head with different like wings or bodies. And then you want to kind of rotate these dials until you get it to make the dog.
Gotcha.
But like I said, there are some puzzles where there may be 2 different things you can solve for.
Right.
But you don't know that until you kind of like happen upon it.
Sure.
And you realize, oh, by turning these, I'm actually in the right direction of something else.
So it looks like from the images, there's like a, marching ants line. There's like dotted lines. Is that the degrees on which you can spin, or could you be off slightly on something and not solve it?
It locks into place.
Okay, so it locks into, once you get it where it needs to be, it locks into place and you can't move it, or you
so each of those lines are basically just kind of like dotted. Those are that's just like a
segments
track
of how it moves.
Yeah, so you'll see like some actual dots that you can rotate to lock into those dots. And then some of them you'll find that when you rotate it, you can go left or right. Some of the puzzles will have, you rotate the red one and then it lands on a blue dot, and then it opens up the blue dial. And so sometimes you're trading out the blue dial and then you're switching the red around until you get to the purple. And so you have to kind of figure out, how do I get all of these colors to move? How do I get these shapes into the spot they need to? And it does take some kind of like tinkering and figuring out.
Interesting.
There's no timer to worry about. There's nothing that penalizes you. There's nothing that says hurry. But it doesn't blink or do anything to kind of like lean you in a direction.
Sure.
Which I kind of like that.
Yeah.
But it caught my eye because the graphics looked so simple.
Yes.
And then I saw a maze game, so I haven't really seen the maze so far, but it's just kind of like increasingly harder puzzles. And then once you kind of spin, things into place, like for instance, one of these is like a flame, and it looks like there's red and orange and yellow. They just have to kind of rotate these flames around, or these pieces, until it looks like a graphic of a flame.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, it's called G30. I'm not sure what that is. And the memory maze, I don't know what that part is. But it is a really cool game. I've done all the levels that are in the Play Store. So if you see the graphics, I'm beyond that. So I don't know how much more game there is.
Yeah.
It's been really cool. It's, I don't know if it's worth the $4, because I can't say whether or not there are ads between levels or what happens. But I would say if you have a Play Pass subscription and you like casual puzzle games, this is a pretty cool one.
Yeah.
I scored it pretty well. There are, like right now, it's 4.5 stars in the Play Store with about 10,000 installs.
Yeah.
I gave it a 4.3.
Okay.
So I gave it pretty high scores.
That's real good.
I gave it a 5 for ads and notifications because there are 0.
Right.
Again, that's qualified.
Yeah, it could be because of the Play Pass.
Yeah. And then in terms of features, I gave it a 3.5 because I don't know beyond what I have if there's really much more to the game.
Sure.
It's above average.
Yeah.
But it's not like chock full of things to do. But other than that, the graphics are good. The audio is really cool if you play it with the earbuds.
Nice.
Definitely recommend that. And then again, I like the replay value because it kind of invites you to go back and complete some of these levels.
Right. Maybe look for some hidden things in there.
Yeah. So yeah, G30, a memory maze.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Scott.
No problem. All right, that's going to do it for this episode of the podcast.
Thanks for listening.
We appreciate it. If you guys have any questions, feedback, concerns, comments, anything, shoot us an email at podcast@AndroidGuys.com. We'd love to hear from you one way or the other. Luke, if someone wants to get a hold of you, how do they do that?
I am on Instagram and Twitter at Luke Gaul, Gaul.
And I'm on Instagram at Scott Webster and Twitter as SWebster77. Until next time, thanks for listening.
See ya.